to Chinese news, and today we are going to be talking about the Opium War, the War in Opium, and the Boxer Rebellion. So, firstly, let's talk about why there was a war in opium. So, if you don't know, opium, this lovely seed, it comes from the opium poppy seed, obviously. And at first it was used as a way of healing. It relieved pain, stress. It helped like colds and stuff, similar to Advil. And well, the British, they came over and they're like, oh, let's trade. And here's a little fact: Chinese, they didn't like merchants, and they viewed them as lower class. So when the British came and they wanted to sell items or trade, they were able to buy stuff from the Chinese, meaning the British bought things like silk or tea, and sure enough, opium. What the British did with the opium, however, was expand on that market and kind of become that creepy, like that creepy drug lord neighbor of yours who's seemingly taking everything and distributing to like your younger sibling. Well, the British also got jealous that China wasn't buying anything from them because, again, Chinese view merchants as lower than peasants, and when an influx of merchants from Europe come and sell, they're like, yeah, whatever, you can buy our stuff, but we ain't taking yours. So that ended up having the British give Chinese nearly all of their silver, and they weren't having it. So, again, like the creepy drug lords that they were, they took the opium and really distributed it, went all around China, and being like, here you go, here you go, here you go. So what was once this miracle drug became a highly addictive, well, it was already a highly addictive substance, but people started really abusing it. There was about like over 1 million people just full on addicted to this. And Chinese, they got mad. They got beyond mad. So they're like, hey, this isn't right. Stop doing that, or you're not trading with us anymore. We're closing the ports. And the British, they're like, nah, we're not doing that. So they were like, let's fight. And so they did. And by and in November of 1839, the fighting really began. The HMS Voyage and HMS Hainish defeated 29 Chinese ships. That's not good. Not good for the Chinese, at least. They were not having fun. Lord Paddy Smith demanded compensation, and the Chinese were like, no, we're not doing that. And on January 7th, 1841, Brits took over Borage Fort of the Chenipai and Tai Kok down. Scratch that. And January 7th, 1841, Brits took over 2 forts of the Chinese, and they guarded the Pearl River. Of the 13 fleets that the Chinese had, 10 were taken over and destroyed. Of the 13 Chinese fleets, 10 were taken over, and then the flagship was destroyed. So, in January 18th of 1841, January 18th, 1841, a truce was signed in Hong Kong. And that truce was actually, oh my god. In January 18th, 1842, the Treaty of Nanjing was signed. This basically ended the Opium War. And what that meant was it was it was, oh my god. August 17th, 1842, the war ended with the Treaty of Nanjing. And that basically meant the British was allowed to sell anyone, and yes, that meant the British could also continue to distribute opium. And this also contributed to the Taiping Rebellion. And that rebellion was, let's see, that was about the Taiping Rebellion was a devastating peasant rebellion. So like they the peasants they wanted the end of the Qing dynasty. The Qing. Nah, I'm not gonna add that part. Yeah, the end of the opium helped give way to the Taiping Rebellion. Now, let's talk about another type of rebellion. Oh wait, no. Also, if you're still confused about the effects of opium, the effects of opium is compared to, nowadays, it's compared to the use of Oxycontin in that sense of effects and addictiveness. Just a little thing. Now let's talk about the Boxer Uprising or Rebellion. So, by the 1800s, the United By the 1800s, European nations governed. By the 1900s, Western powers basically ruled nearly all of Southeast Asia, and because of that, there started to be culture change. And the culture changes were that some of the Chinese were converting to Christianity, and many were starting to lose interest or discontinue their normal traditions. This made some people very angry because you have these outside forces, outside people coming in, nearly taking over your land, almost everything, and your entire life and tradition and values are changing all around you, and you're seeing people who once were viewed things differently and had things differently, and they're now doing things that these random people that you don't even know told them to do, or influencing them to do. So these group called the Boxers, also called Boxers, the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists, believe that this should be stopped. They also believe that these influences were just ruining China, and they wanted to destroy everything foreign. And by foreign, this actually means everything Western. So in 1900, again, same decade, a group of Boxers did in fact kill foreign ministries and businessmen, but they also killed Chinese Christians, and this stirred the pot because they're technically killing their own people out of the sheer fact that they converted to Christianity. So this angered many Western European nations. So an army of 20,000 British, French, German, Russian, American, and even Japanese troops attacked Beijing, China. This was a heavy fist to the Boxers, and they won, and the 20,000 troops won, and they made China pay for all the damages. That didn't help the relations, but this also weakened China's government, meaning Western powers all still continue to fight for power over China. Now, with that being said, the whole thing with imperialism in China, it was caused because Western nations, we wanted to expand resources and wanted to expand natural resources. And well, when we found China, well, when we went and started to try to take over China, we saw that they had a lot of natural resources, and so we just started hurrying in, and it did become a port of natural resources. I mean, we loved it, and with the trade, they had many goods. They had, like mentioned earlier, they had teas, they had silk, porcelain, and of course opium, and drugs. I know in England it became a huge thing. The British, obviously, they loved the opium, and their opium dens created. And well, opium dens are exactly what it says, what you think it is. It is a place where people sell and smoked opium. Now that happened in the 19th century, and notably in China, Southeast Asia, America, North America, France, the places where we all traded. So we created a larger drug problem throughout, I think, the world, but that's fine. That's another story. But the whole thing with imperialism, yeah. We also started to have an open door policy, which basically meant in 1899, all nations would have equal opportunities and equal chances to trade in China. So like, we're like, oh yeah, you know what? Let's all be equal and we can all trade here. That, obviously, touchy. The 100 Days Reform, wait, no, let's not talk about that. And yeah, so that was basically it.